Hello, welcome to the Music Production Podcast, the show where we talk about all things making music. I'm your host, Brian Funk. Thanks for joining us. The music you're hearing right now, I created with my brand new Ableton Live pack called Real Synths Volume 2 Moog MG1. And Real Synths is a collection of synths that I've been making where I take some of my favorite synths and run them through my Tascam 388 8-track reel-to-reel machine. And for this one, I used the Moog MG1, which was a consumer-based analog synth that they actually sold in Radio Shack. I picked mine up at the Brooklyn Synth Expo a few years back because as soon as I tried it, I put on those headphones and I was no longer in the Brooklyn Synth Expo. I was in some other cool synthesized world. Really sucks you in, these sounds. And I think they sound especially cool coming off the analog tape. So I took the tape recordings that I made of the synthesizer and I put them into 44 Ableton Live instrument racks. And you're hearing some of those in action right now. You can get the Moog MG1 Real Synths Ableton Live pack by going to my site, AfroDJMac.com. And you can also get 25% off if you use the code PODCAST when you check out. Otherwise, you can get the pack as the April 2019 download for the Music Production Club. That's just $6 a month. And you get the pack every month. You get the Ableton live performance video course I made. You get all of the free downloads, over 175 of them at this point. You get a Moog bass pack, and you also get some special deals exclusive to members for various sites across the internet. And now let's get on with the show. So today I want to talk about problems. We all run into problems while making music, and sometimes it's really maddeningly frustrating. Where you have an idea, you want to make some music, and you can't for some reason. It might be some technical thing you can't figure out. You don't know how to use your DAW. You can't figure out a piece of hardware. It might be you're not sure how to connect things. It could be so many different things that can go wrong. And I think the more complicated our setups get, the more room there is for error. I have to admit, sometimes I really enjoy just picking up an acoustic guitar because after it's in tune, you just start playing and there's no nonsense. There's no signal flow. There's no wires to connect. There's no routing options. There's no clipping. It's just music right out of the instrument directly. It sounds funny to think about that way, but I think so much of music making today, especially if you're doing it, in the studio, it involves so many other things before you actually hear the sound. All the path the signal has to go through. And each stage of that game is a place a problem can arise. So what do? Do you throw your laptop across the room? Do you smash things? Do you get upset and turn into the Incredible Hulk? I hope not, although I've been driven nearly to that point many times myself. But I want to give you sort of a different way of thinking about problems as they come up. It's really just a way to change your mindset. And I think, our mindsets are so much of the issue here, because when we make music, sometimes things flow and it's great, and sometimes it's like we don't even know what we're doing. I sometimes feel like some kind of superhero wizard that can accomplish anything and make any sound I want and bring ideas and emotions to life through music. And then other times I feel like I've been doing this for so long, so much of my life, and I can't do anything. It's impossible. And the only difference is me. It's my head, it's my mind. It's not the actual instruments I'm using. It's not the software. It's not the computer. It's me. I'm the thing that's different. And I think we need to recognize that every time we sit down to make music or come down into our studios and pick up our instruments, we are different. We are really like an entirely different person looking at the world through a different lens, depending on our mind state and our moods. So what do we do when problems come up? My thinking that I'm trying to work on here is to embrace them, to see them as a good thing. Because music production is hard. There will be problems, there will be challenges. There's no avoiding that. So if we get upset and frustrated every time a problem comes, we're never going to stick with it. We're going to give up, and it's going to be a source of frustration rather than the source of joy and expression that it really should be. We have to instead see them as opportunities. Problems, when they arise, are chances for us to figure out things, to improve our workflow, or to come up with new techniques and workflows and be more creative. They're not bad things necessarily. They're only bad when we decide they're bad. But sometimes when a problem comes up, it gives us a chance to rethink things and to try something new. And that's where interesting things happen. If it was easy to make music, what would be the point? You'd sit down and every time great things would happen, you'd win all the time. You'd get your music out there. People love it. Um, or would they? I don't know. Because if it was that easy, then everyone would be successful at making music. There'd be nothing special about you turning out a song. It wouldn't matter because everybody could do it. Think of the things that you've figured out how to do in your life that pretty much every person can do, the average person can do. You learn these things when you're a kid. They're very challenging. You fight through them and it's frustrating. We'll take like riding a bike, for instance. Um, for me, that was like kind of a turning point in my life when I learned how to ride a bike without training wheels. It was like this rite of passage as a kid. And all the other kids were doing it. And it seemed impossible at the time. And once I figured it out, it was amazing. And now I can ride my bike. It's great. But there was no real award for it. There was no celebration. There was no like ceremony that happened. I didn't make the newspapers or anything for learning how to ride my bike. I just did it. And it's because it's something most people can do. Music production is not one of those things. And that's part of why the glory and the satisfaction is so satisfying, is because it's hard. So when those problems come up, you have to realize this is what's going to make the end result so worthwhile, so satisfaction inducing, so satisfying, is because you've done something that's challenging and you've beaten it. And every time you beat it, you get a little better for the next time and you've improved. There are a lot of things in life that I don't do because they are not challenging. Um, I like to tell students when they get frustrated with music production that, it's hard and challenging, but that's part of the fun of it. Um, and I give them the example of basketball. Now, basketball can be a lot of fun, but only if you are challenged to a reasonable degree. Now, it's not fun if you're playing somebody that's just going to destroy you every time, but it's also not fun if you're playing somebody that you can destroy every time. For instance, playing basketball against a 4-year-old is not very exciting. You will win every time and you will just rub it in that person's face, make them feel miserable, and you're being cruel to a child. There's nothing good that comes out of that, and you'll lose interest in it real fast. You're not going to keep going and pursuing that, and it's not the kind of thing that's going to keep you up at night and get you excited to wake up in the morning. It's nothing. It doesn't matter. Music production is not like that. It's because it's difficult that it gives us this sense of accomplishment. Think of how important conflict is in just your everyday life and in movies and television. If there was no conflict, nothing would be exciting. Picture your favorite movies without problems, like your superhero movies. Here, take a superhero that has every ability and all these magical powers that seem so great. It's not just a movie about watching Superman fly around the world and wow, look at how cool it is to be Superman. Problems come up that challenge Superman, and Superman has to face them and deal with them. And that's what makes the movie exciting. How is he going to solve this? How is he going to get past this? A story without conflict is just boring. I think this applies with really anything, any kind of creative endeavor. If it's not challenging in some way, then it's really not worth doing, in my opinion. I think we are able to find our creativity, our own voice, and our uniqueness through problems as well, because we'll all solve our issues in a different way. And this is where our personality comes out and our own unique form of expression gets displayed because we found our path around or through this problem. It's a way we create tension, it's a way we create excitement. And I think we can all probably relate to that feeling when you finally do bust through a really challenging situation. The satisfaction you feel. That's often the things we talk about. Like, oh, I was able to get this element to cut through the mix. Everything was so muddy and I was really frustrated. But as soon as I tried this, then it started working. And those are the exciting moments, maybe that most people won't ever notice in your music production unless they're fellow music producers. But those are the moments that keep us excited and make us want to move forward. I'm sure you've been up late at night thinking about your track, your mix, your song, your album, whatever, and finally had those moments where you get through that problem that thought was insurmountable. That's satisfying, and that makes you stronger next time. That makes you better at it. So the next time that problem comes up, you know what to do. You know what works, you know what doesn't work. And that makes you more ready for the next problem that will inevitably come up. So, my advice about problems is don't get frustrated by them, don't get angry, embrace them. Try to see them as good things, see them as the stuff that's going to make you better. And that way, music production stays fun for you. It wouldn't be fun if these problems didn't show up. Thankfully, they do, and they give us something to work at. Next time you're faced with a difficult situation, look at it as a chance to grow. How are you going to figure it out? How are you going to solve this problem? Or how are you going to work around the problem? That might be the thing too. Is it a limitation? How are you going to figure out a way around it? Think back to some of the great music of yesterday where they had such limited equipment and they were still able to make amazing stuff. And now we have gear and software that's worlds beyond that. Yet we still encounter these problems and we never will solve them. There's never going to be that magic plugin that fixes everything for you or does it perfectly. Otherwise, even if it was, you probably wouldn't even want to use it. It would be like cheating, I guess. I don't know. There's some pretty cool stuff going on with like artificial intelligence, writing songs, and even in the style of certain bands. I don't think anyone really got that excited about it as far as like an enjoyment perspective, that it was something they really wanted to listen to or connect with. It's obviously a feat of engineering and technology that we're able to do this kind of stuff, but the expression part really comes from the human, I think, and the way that we get around our problems and get through our problems. Think about that the next time you're feeling frustrated. Try to change your mindset a little and don't let something like music production that's supposed to be fun that you got into because you loved it, because you're interested in it, because you wanted to explore it. Don't let that become a source of frustration. Those problems are actually the things that make it enjoyable. Hope that helps a little bit. Thanks so much for listening. And again, don't forget, if you go to my store, afrodjmac.com/store, you can get any of my Ableton Live packs for 25% off using the code word podcast. I think they'll brighten up your songs a little bit, maybe. Thanks again for listening, and we'll be back soon. Take care.